Hello, fellow diamond painters. I hope my mic is working. Every once in a while it flashes off. There it goes. So I'm not sure if it's working or not working, but hopefully you can hear me. If you can't, there's an issue with the mic. It is 1:46 a.m. I've made myself a fresh cup of coffee. Yeah, habit. I'm still diamond painting on the librarian. Uh, I'm about almost 3/4 done. So about 25% more to do, maybe 30. Um, I thought I would try and tell you a little story, my whip and sip and storytelling while I do a little bit of this. I'm hoping I can still do it. Sometimes I'm diamond painting and, I stop halfway through. It is the second coming into the third. It's March 3rd, because it's after midnight. And it would be Tuesday, and it's 30 degrees. So who knows what kind of temperatures we're going to get in the next few days. So I wanted to start out with the story that I'm going to tell you people, viewers, is moving into this mobile home park. And after I tell you a few things about what's been going on, maybe you can tell me at the end of it in a comment or something if you think it sounds a little hinky or something in the story or the way the park is, that something's just not exactly right. But this park was built in 1955. I'm officially 4 years older than it is. It started out smaller, RVs. Well, not RVs. The smaller mobile homes, the little, what I call the little silver bullets. Things like that. And then it, you know, developed into a little larger homes. It can only get a certain size in here because, one, the lots are not that big where they park the mobile home, and they're not that long, so you're sort of limited. But anyway, when I first moved here 20 years ago, will it be 21 years this October? The lot rent was $195, and that included your water. And we were limited to the amount of water we could use. You couldn't use any outside to water plants. Well, if you did, you limited it. You couldn't have an outside spigot. You couldn't have a little wading pool or things like that, because the park was the one that paid the water bill out of the lot rent. The manager we had at the time pretty much ignored everybody, and I don't mean ignored and didn't do anything. She pretty much, left us to our own devices, and if we had any issues or any problems, we could go to her. We could just tell her, and she'd check into it. And they had maintenance in the park. Not very good maintenance, but we had some maintenance if we needed it. And a lot of times you paid next to nothing, really, for any kind of maintenance, because it was he didn't do major maintenance. It was minimal. You paid for the parts and a few bucks, and it was done. So anyway, that was the first of our managers. The park got sold at that time, about a couple years, 2 to 3 years into me living here. The park got sold, and the guy who bought it lived in Hawaii or something. he came into the park once, and saying, oh, he wants to do this, that, and the other thing. He got rid of the manager we had, hired another manager from within the park, because that's what they keep doing. And I think she lasted maybe 6 months, and well, he only owned the park for about a year or so, because the idiot that he hired, within 6 months, she stole thousands of dollars from the park, because they were letting people pay their lot rent in cash. You could pay it in cash or money order or something like that, but some people would just pay it in cash because they either couldn't get to, I don't know what their excuse was, but they would pay it in cash. I didn't want to pay for the money order or something. I always paid my bills, any bills, with a check, so I didn't have an issue with that. He ended up selling it to oh, these idiots. They were two attorneys. They came into the park all gung ho. That was about the fourth year I lived here, I think it was. Fourth or fifth. Anyway, and when those lawyers came in, they were telling everybody they were going to turn this into a really beautiful mobile home park, and it was going to be a gated community, and so on and so forth. They even had a big old cookout up at the office lot, and invited the police to come in to show them explain to them what they were going to do, and to help the police out, that if there were any issues in here that the police thought were worrisome, that they would be dealt with immediately, so the police wouldn't have to like travel in and out of here, for anything. And they even donated big money to the food bank and all this other stuff. And the city that I live in, didn't honor them, but were thanking them that, oh, they were going to do this, that, and the other thing. And after about 18 months, they skipped out, wrote it off as a tax write-off, I guess, sold it to this other person that lived in Florida, where he owned a couple larger mobile home parks there in Florida. Okay, and that's at the time they decided to start reading the meters that were already on our mobile home, already there. They had been there for years, because in the beginning, when I first moved here, the water department would come in, read the meters, and then give the bill to the park, and then the park would pay it. That's how it, they'd add it all up, and that's how it was taken care of. Well, then when this guy bought it out of Florida, he said, okay, you're going to start reading your, the park manager or maintenance, whatever, was going to come around and read meters, and that each mobile home would pay their own water and sewer. Okay. It was fairly reasonable in the beginning, and then all of a sudden it started shooting up. And one time I got a bill that said it was like $50 for water, and I knew I did not use that. And so I even talked to the owner and everything, and he said, well, what have you been paying? And I said, well, look at the computer. You can see, and I've saved every bill, every piece of paper I've ever gotten from this park. I still have every little notification, every bill, every receipt, and anything they ever put on our doors, I kept. And I have it all for 20 years. But that would have been, like, say, the 15th or 16th year I was here. And so he looked through and he said, yeah, I can see that. So he said, all right, would you be more satisfied with the $30? I said, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so then he decided that maybe these meters weren't reading right. Maybe there was something wrong with these meters because they were still having, like big water bills. That whatever we were using, we were paying, but the park had leftover amount they had to pay. Well, hey, they have an office, and there's so many leaks in this park that we told them about that was causing a lot of the issues too. That was on them to fix, not us. So he went around and had them put these things that look like little black buttons on your mobile home that was attached, and they were supposed to use like a little gun or some little, I don't know, some kind of gadget where they would go across the button and it would tell the numbers so you knew what you used from month to month. And we figured, okay, I was getting halfway decent water bills, not bad, everything else, which this would have been our third or fourth or fifth manager, which I forgot to mention that every time there was a new owner, new managers would come in. But they'd always be hired from within the park, which I always said was the dumbest thing ever. Because once you make friends with certain people in the park, you give them, a little more leeway than you do anybody else. Because, you never make friends with your tenants and stuff. That's just, you don't do it. Business is business. So anyhow, we figured, okay, they're going around meeting the meters every month and blah blah blah. Well, this guy that owned the park decided, well, I think I'm going to sell the park. So, then the couple months after he sold it, naturally, the reason why we had to get new management is because we found out too that the managers in this park, which lived probably 4 or 5 mobile homes up from me, were stealing money from the park. They weren't even reading the meters. Whatever anybody paid, they'd just put a number down and then they'd pocket the money. They weren't paying the water bill. They weren't doing what they were supposed to do. And plus, there were a couple people that lived in a few mobile homes that were friends of theirs, never paid rent the 2 to 3 years that they lived here. And this was coming up to last year. And so they never paid rent. Neither did the managers, not like that. And they weren't doing the water bill right. And that screwed us all. So they got rid of them. And how this thing is working, I don't get it. This company, this owner, whatever, owns this park and the one other one that was having issues too. I'm sure they own several others and they're out of Texas or whatever, buying stuff up as a tax write-off or whatever they're buying them for. Well, they just buy them up and then they don't manage them or whatever they want to call it. They hire another conglomerate to put things in place, like their own accountant type thing. And this company, and I won't mention the name because I don't need any hassles, but when I looked them up, they are they're rated like 2. I mean, they're a ripoff artist. They don't do anything. And I had a long conversation with her, the one that ran it, and I tried to deal with her, and she yelled and screamed at me and ran over top of me and didn't even want to discuss it, and made basic statements like, well, if you don't like the way things are here and you don't want to pay the price that we say it is, you can just move. And they know that we can't move. They know we can't. So they not only, that company and that company are in charge. Between the time I moved in here and now, the rent has went from $195 to almost $400 a month lot rent. No improvements, no maintenance. Nobody calls you back if you've got an issue. There's no amenities here whatsoever. We sat in the dark, I don't know how many times, with the street lights because nobody wanted to fix them. I mean, it's just nothing. I can understand if you're going to raise the rent, then I want to see some improvements. I want to see something that looks like it's worth the money I got to pay. But it isn't. There are empty lots all over around here. And plus, that's bad enough. But there are abandoned mobile homes with mold in them and raccoons running through them and mice and possums and everything. And they're not doing anything. They're not removing those mobile homes. They're just doing nothing. So, let me find another color here. So, then, on top of that, the lady told me, she said, well, we're not reading the meters. We just figure, we just go, how much is water and sewer and stuff is used in the park. And then we divide it among the mobile homes, and that's what you pay. And I complained to the manager because I told him, I said, look, I said, you tell me that's fair. I said, there's people in here with kids, 3 and 4 kids and 2 adults, and they're using way more water than one individual would or 2 people in a mobile home. That's not fair. Well, he figured out that he discussed it after 2 or 3 months, discussed it with that other agency, that it would be fair, that, everybody say how many people that have living in their mobile home, and that's how it'll be divided up and blah, blah, blah. Well, it started out not too bad in the beginning. Now, all of a sudden, it's blown up. It has blown up to way, way higher than what it should have been. And the reason why I complained on my last one is because it was almost $600. That's with lot rent and water and sewer. And I told him, I said, you know better than that. I said, in January, I had no water for 4 or 5 days. I said, in February, I had no water for 4 or 5 days because of my pipes freezing. I said, so you tell me how I used almost $80 in water. There is no way. I have never used that kind of water. And I'm in a little tiny mobile home. And so I didn't know how I was going to pay it. Well, the next day, he sends me an email rather than call me back, of course, because he's gotten to the point now where I don't think he wants to talk to any of us. But he sent an email with the revised amount, and he was just so kind enough to take $50 off, which still puts me close to $450, $500. So it's like, oh, how kind of you. And what I consider hinky about this, if you think about it, if he can arbitrarily reduce a water bill and not owe the water department and everything else and the company, then he can arbitrarily add a bill, add money to a bill. Now, if he's doing that, then because we don't know how much water the park is using, they won't tell us. We're not allowed to know. It's not in our name. So that means that probably next month I'm going to get that added amount that he took off this month, and it's going to be on next month. You watch and see. That's the part that really pisses me off, is that he can, and that's the hinky part to me, that how can you arbitrarily just say, okay, fine, I'm taking this off. Are you taking it off because nobody was owed that amount? Or did you slap that amount on somebody else? Or are you holding that amount back and you're going to slap it on me next month? I contacted legal aid 6-8 months ago when this started happening. Finally got an answer from them about a month ago saying, as far as they could tell, it was legal. They couldn't find anything where it said that they couldn't do this. I have tried to contact the governor, which will not answer me, of the state of Ohio, of course. I have tried contacting Attorney General. Nothing. I get no response, no reply. Of course, not from my senator, another Republican. Sorry. And the last resort I had was to contact the mayor of the city I live in. And I haven't heard anything yet. That was just last Friday. So I don't know. I don't think anything can be done. I really don't. It's just, I don't understand it. I don't understand any of it. This is not a fancy park. This is a itty bitty little, not rundown, but it's not like some of these other fancy ones I see in another township or another little town up from me. And it's like, I don't know, I'm confused. And the stress is like astronomical at times. And I apologize for maybe reacting the way I react, but you'd have to be living this stress for 20 years. This has been going on for 20 years with the up and down of this stuff and that stuff. I couldn't afford to move at any given time. I'm in a 56-year-old mobile home that isn't even worth $1,000 now. I have paid more insurance on this mobile home in 20 years than it's ever worth. I have repairs that need to be made. Any place else that I were to go would cost at least, I looked at seniors places, you can't have your pets. Or I've looked at other places stuff. They start at like $1,300. I don't have $1,300 even between my daughter and I. It's like, and then being if it's a senior living or something, I can't have her. So, because she's not a senior yet. So it's like, okay, I'm stuck. And they know it. So I thought I'd give you a little story. See what you think. I don't know if I babbled, good, bad, or indifferent. Just trying. Also, off the subject, another diamond painting company contacted me and had me pick something, and they'll be sending me a PR package. It's not been shipped yet, of course, so I don't know how soon that will be before I get that. They're just now, I gave them my address and information stuff, and then there'll be a discount code. All that stuff will be available as soon as that shows up. So I'll let you know on that. But I thought I would at least come on here, give you a little story. Hope you heard everything. I don't understand why my mic is not working unless it needs charged. That's a possibility. So, okay, I'm going to get off here and get this uploaded. Y'all can let me know what you think. Hugs to y'all. Love you. And I'm going to have my coffee. And y'all have a good one. Bye bye.